Hey everyone, I'm here before the episode starts, so you know what that means. We had some technical difficulties. In spite of that, we hope you enjoy it.
Hello everyone, welcome to or back to the Controversial Cinema Podcast. I'm Cosette.
I'm Liz.
Because it's been a minute.
It really has.
So sorry.
You're gonna have to forgive us because, girl, we rusty.
The beginning of 2025 really took our asses out unexpectedly.
Girl, it's just like constantly falling down the stairs, smacking your head on every corner, only to find more stairs. Like, it is the opposite of the Cowboy Bebop stairway sequence where it's just, I'm just falling down all the time.
We did not mean to take this long to get back to you guys. It's just the way things shook out a little bit. We are back with a very interesting, this is basically the finale of the first season, which I know feels weird considering we did take that huge big break, but technically yes. And we are here to talk about Cannibal Holocaust today. We just so happened to catch it on Peacock streaming, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's just go ahead and do this one, because it's on Peacock, and we don't have to find it through other means, so...
Yes, and this is also, we watched this back in December.
Was it December or January?
No, it was December, because it was Christmas. We had
Disgusting.
Christmas cookies.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, we did.
We did the Instagram post with, the little digicam that I had. And we got those really cute pictures of Odin, too. So we watched this all the way back in December. So, like, it's been a minute since we've refreshed ourselves on the plot lines. So this episode's probably not going to be as in-depth as some other ones are. Right. But that's okay because, honestly, the plot of this movie is really straightforward.
You kind of get it once we start talking about it. You'll understand that we don't really need to drag out every detail in any ways.
It'll be a surprise for you.
Correct. Because it certainly was a surprise for me. And I don't know why, because...
Yeah, it's not like the premise of the film is this big secret.
Right. Cannibal Holocaust. For those who don't know, it is considered to be one of the founding, I'll use that word, found footage movies. It's really credited to be like kind of like the first to kick off things. It kind of went on to inspire like the resurgence that we kind of had in like the 90s and the 2000s of found footage movies. This movie, while certainly a choice, is important for the culture. So I do have to give it props for, even though found footage is not my favorite subgenre of horror, I do recognize what it did, because without this, we wouldn't have Blair Witch, and a lot of people love that movie. I'm sorry, I don't.
And it's also really indicative of, again, the time that it was being made, because I will give a brief, it's not really a spoiler, but like, there are so many films that you can tell were made before animal rights. Isn't this the movie that stirred animal...
I think we Googled that.
Yes.
I think we Googled that after watching.
And so I'm going to ruin Milo and Otis for everyone watching and listening to, because Milo and Otis is another movie where real animals were killed in the production of the film. So Cannibal Holocaust, like a year after it was released, stirred all of the animal regulation in film, right, to where, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't harm unconsenting animals in a film to make your film, you know? So.
Correct. But we'll get there. We'll talk about that more as well. But for those who don't know what Cannibal Holocaust is, the brief synopsis is that during a rescue mission into the Amazon rainforest, a professor stumbles across lost film shot by a missing documentary crew. So that is the found footage aspect, is that they have recovered film, and they're basically seeing this missing documentary crew's footage through the Amazon rainforest. So turn back now, If you do not want spoilers for this movie, though I'm still here to tell you, even if you know what happens, it's still very shocking to watch.
Even if you were to be told this film in graphic detail, it could still not prepare you for the actual experience of watching the movie.
No.
So, be comforted, be horrified, go get your popcorn.
Spoiler alert is officially on, so if you don't want to listen to this point, go away.
No.
Okay. This is not for you.
Yeah.
Alright, Liz, kick us off. What happens in this movie?
So, Cannibal Holocaust, which you have already touched on, is essentially about anthropologists being the worst people known to mankind, which modern anthropologists are not like this.
Correct.
Like, this is such a poor representation of anthropology as a field. But, so this group of American anthropologists go missing, and another anthropologist goes back to where the original group went missing to see if he can find them, but also they were filming their studies and he wants the footage back. So he goes over there. It's very wild. There's a weird amount of people speaking in different languages, but they're not being captions. The dubbing is really weird for some reason. And there's just a lot of weird interactions between, obviously, the anthropologist, the military, who is here also to help facilitate the recapturing of footage and potentially people. The anthropologist Harold Monroe discovers that the group previous was studying were cannibals, and he ends up recovering the footage and going back to America, but it's just a weird introduction.
It is, and he ends up trading the footage for, like, a music thing. Like, he gives the tribe music, and it's very funny.
It was a radio.
It was like a radio. And I don't know why it entertained me so much, but it was just like, okay. And that's kind of like the long story short, because they end up, like, basically running into, like, this tribe, and they kind of end up following them, and then they show them, like, the documentary film crew's, like, bones, because that's how long they've been dead, apparently, which is, I'm not going to go into how long it actually takes you to turn into bones, so I'm like, how long are these fucking people missing before you actually went looking? But whatever, suspension of disbelief, cool.
Well, you know, the tribe, they are
Well, true,
cannibals.
they probably did just eat them and, like, lick them like a chicken wing, so.
Yeah, you know, finger looking good.
Finger looking good! Yeah, okay, that is true. Because I'm just like, oh, they were decomposing like that? No, they were being eaten like that. Literally lick that damn meat off the bone. Like a Hot Ones episode, I tell ya.
What the fuck?
So.
Sean Evans could never,
Sean
but yes.
Evans could never. So, Harold ends up taking the footage back to America and shows it to, they're just literally called the executives in the movie, because the executives basically want to turn this into like a film and then air it to the public. And so Harold is like, I don't think we should, but, like, I guess let's watch the recovered film together and see what we're in for.
It's a time.
It's a time. It's a lot.
Yeah, and so once Harold gets back and he meets with these broadcasting executives, the film that we are watching, Cannibal Holocaust, is cut between the boardroom and the footage that the 4 American anthropologists covered while they were studying the Yakoma tribe, I think is what they were named.
Yakomamos.
In any normal circumstance, I would try to, like, represent the tribe. I think they are all fictional tribes.
I would hope, because I'm so sorry. But one was called the Yakumo, which was the easiest one to say, and then there was the Yamamamos, and then there was a third one that I don't remember at all what they were called.
And they all have beef with each other, because of course they do. Once again, this movie is just about old school anthropologists being horrible to their subjects, and we see through the footage that the anthropologists are not following whatever ethics and values that they're supposed to be implementing when they're actually conducting research, which is like blending in and learning from the people that they're doing their study on, whatever the fuck. Instead, they are instigating and really filming all of the natives through a really exploitative lens. And it's just so gross. The amount of, like, rape in this fucking film is, it's a lot.
And I also want to point out a little side note. It's something that's left ambiguous in the film, but there is an allusion to one of the filmmakers that one of them that went missing. It was alluded to that he would purposefully basically stir up shit in order to get more enticing footage. That is alluded to. It's never confirmed or denied. It's just like ambiguous, but it's almost this thought of, did he like start shit with this tribe in order to get more exciting footage to bring back, and therefore is that a true representation of what the tribe operates like? We don't know, but it was an interesting thing that I thought I would note because it kind of ties into like the ending of the film, but we'll get there too.
Honestly, because the film is such a spiral downwards, the plot points that all of the cruelty is associated with is not necessarily super important. Just know, if you have a soft spot for turtles, you definitely don't want to watch this movie. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because, once again, animal cruelty doesn't really factor into if this movie got made or not. The executives from whatever broadcast company that Monroe is with, they keep edging him on about, like, no, we need to release this. Who cares if it was exaggerated? Blah, 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 blah. And Monroe, throughout the entire film, is like, no, actually, this isn't a true representation of the tribe that was being studied, and you don't know how bad this footage is. It's such a weird dichotomy of almost like Monroe is like the good anthropologist with the moral standing, and the evil broadcast executives want, their watchers, and they want to make money off of the ultimate exploitation of natives. Burning down a hut with people in it, with natives in it, doesn't draw the line for the broadcast executives. Nope. They're like, that's okay.
Perfectly fine.
That's flashy.
Whatever happens to those natives is what's deserved anyway. Not that they say that, but
I'm getting
vibes.
Pocahontas.
Yeah,
flashbacks.
like I'm like, okay, anyway, moving on.
We draw the line at Americans being pulverized.
Right. Because that's basically how the cruise footage ends, is that the natives end up getting tired of their shit, basically, and just go to town on these people.
In all of the cannibalistic, essentially, like, every awful thing that the anthropologists did to the tribes, they got back.
Yep.
And at the end of the movie, truly, it's like, you know what? Yeah, good for them. They deserved to die.
Yeah, because, like, the anthropologists were horrible to this tribe. I mean, like Liz mentioned, they burned down a hut with people inside it.
And children.
And, like, when I say people, I mean the people of the tribe. Men, women, and children. And they even killed, like, a child's pet pig, which is just sad. That was his own pet friend.
Another live animal.
Yeah, another live animal killed. There's so much. A monkey, a snake, a turtle, a pig. It's a lot of animal cruelty death. I will go ahead and tell you there is a cut that exists out there without the animal cruelty in it. That is not what was on Peacock, and I was not aware of that before we watched the Peacock cut. So, just want to throw that out there. One of the worst things that this tribe does, sorry, not the tribe, the filmmakers, they rape one of the women from the tribe. And because she has been raped, and therefore has lost her virginity, she gets punished by sodomy with a rock.
Yeah, and I think because it's another native man that once the woman comes back and he finds out that she's not a virgin anymore. I think it's just this big show of him beating her to death, sodomy, like taking her out to whatever river was there, and then he not necessarily drowns her, but like drags her through the mud.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, this is where one of the really iconic scenes from Cannibal Holocaust comes from, is she like gets impaled from the
butt up.
Yeah, and all the way through the mouth. So it's just like this straight shot.
Which, if it were not for the context, fucking metal as hell imagery.
Yeah. It really does suck that it is in context of a woman gets raped, burn.
Right. It's also a very weird, I just remembered this, childbirthing scene in the movie.
You're right.
So that's in there as well. I didn't look into like if it was a real childbirth or if it was simulated for the movie. I dear God hope it was simulated, but you know what, the animal cruelty was real, so who the fuck knows at this point, but that was just odd as well. So yeah, they basically treat the natives like shit, and that was one of the, because you've probably seen, like, if nothing else, the screen cap of the lady being impaled on the pole. You just probably don't know what it's from. Guess what? It's this movie. Footage ends with the film crew getting fucking torn to shreds. I'm pretty sure they raped the woman too.
They do.
And, tear them apart, basically. And so the executives are all upset. Suddenly. And they're like, oh my God, burn it. Like, get rid of the footage. We don't want this. We don't want it. We're not going to air it. Whatever. The movie ends with Harold walking out of the executive building. And his final line is, I wonder who the real cannibals are.
Which, TBH, I did not realize until now when he says that he's talking about the broadcast executive board. For some reason, that was not super clear to me, and I'm just like, why are you talking about the American anthropologist like that? Like, that's weird. No, it's about the broadcast executive board. I think.
I think that's kind of meant to be a little ambiguous, because it's like, who's the monsters here? Which, I'm going to come back to that, actually, after I talk about the background on the director, because there's a reason specifically why I think it is the executive board, but let's get into that. Okay, so that's basically Cannibal Holocaust. Like I said, we're not going to go through beat by beat all the horrific shit that happens in this movie. You get the point. So, who's the fuckface that directed this shit? Well,
so eloquently put.
So once again, we got an Italian dude. I'm sick of him.
If I had a shot.
Looking at you, Pasolini.
If I had $1.
If I had $1. Look. It's weird that it's happened twice. So who is it? Anyway, his name is Ruggero, and I'm pretty sure I could do the tongue roll. I ain't doing it for y'all. Diodato. I'm not Italian. The only Italian in this house is upstairs playing games, so I can't ask him either. That is the guy, Mr. Diodato. The movie was released in 1980, which for some reason trips me the fuck out. To me, it's not an 80s movie.
It feels like a 70s movie.
It feels like 70s, maybe a 60s, definitely 70s though. And I'm talking early 70s is what the movie feels like, because it's very like kind of...
It has
Texas Chainsaw vibes.
Yes, and I think that's because of, I haven't looked this up to back up the information, but I mean, well, no, it was shot on film. And like the particular graininess of that film, like it really does give itself to that late 60s, solidly 70s vibe.
Yeah, for sure. So who is Mr. Diodato? Well, he's a film director, screenwriter, and he's an actor as well from Italy. Not too much is personally known about him other than he grew up on a farm in a neighborhood where Rome's major film studios are located. So it seems like film was a pretty prominent part of his life from an early age. Prior to making his own films, he actually worked under 2 other Italian directors. He did have previous experience working in the film industry before he started making his own movies. And in the late 1960s, he directed some comedy, musical, and thriller films before leaving cinema to do TV commercials.
That is a wild career diverge.
Yeah, I don't know what the switch up was, but he did some TV commercials.
Were real animals used?
Yeah, again, I didn't want to go too far down a rabbit hole and trying to figure out what TV commercials he specifically did, but yeah, if it has anything to do with animals, stay far away from this man. So then he, after taking that little bit of a break to do like the TV commercials, he returned to cinema in 1976 to make the police flick Live Like a Cop. Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man, excuse me. So that was his return to film in 1976. And in 1977, he rebooted the Cannibal film Mondo genre, which I'm going to explain what that is in a second. That was started years earlier by another Italian film director with the film Last Cannibal World. I don't know why he has such a cannibal-heavy filmography. It's weird that it's happened twice.
Look, some people, they find their thing and they just are really dedicated to it, apparently.
Correct. So naturally, since the word Mondo genre was brought up, I did look that up a little bit. Again, I didn't want to go down a rabbit hole, but Mondo is basically a subgenre of exploitative documentary films, specifically for making pseudo-documentary style films. So basically, they're kind of like specifically for found footage movies in Italy. And they usually depict sensational topics, scenes, or situations. So that's what Mondo basically is, which, as you can see, is kind of like what carried on into Cannibal Holocaust. So there you go. It's his thing. Deodato became an influence on film directors such as Quentin Tarantino and Eli Roth. Eli Roth might be the obvious one because he made Green Inferno, which is his direct homage to Cannibal Holocaust. Liz and I have watched that as well.
Yeah.
Years ago, but we have.
Yeah. The memories and details are very fuzzy, but it's so funny that I think Cannibal Holocaust and Green Inferno get confused with each other. And because, y'all, I thought we had already watched Cannibal Holocaust, but I was incorrect.
Yeah. The Quentin Tarantino I could see as well, especially with the more gritty kind of filmmaking that was going on there. I don't know if Quentin Tarantino has made any specific films that are supposed to be like an homage to that, but just the grittiness, I think, overall is there.
Yeah, and like the vibe, I will say, like whenever Harold is first at whatever region he is with the military, like for some reason the way that the characters interact with each other and just there's I don't know a good way of describing how like the vibes are weird in Quentin Tarantino movies, but like it was very akin to that. Like it just felt a little irreverent, but also very like macho American, which is what Tarantino does really well too.
Yeah.
But anyways,
watch Reservoir Dogs, bro. That's literally all that is. Fantastic film, thanks. So, my favorite part about Cannibal Holocaust to talk about. So, after Cannibal Holocaust premiered in Italy in 1980, a local magistrate actually ordered the film to be seized. Additionally, Deodato was arrested on suspicion of a murder due to the film's realistic effects and the cast being instructed to disappear for a year after filming. I love that fact. I don't know why. It entertains the shit out of me because talk about being dedicated to your craft.
the marketing plan was executed so successfully when you got to show up to court to be like, actually, no, they're alive and well.
He had to present them to the court. He had to present them to the court as evidence that they were in fact still alive, which is so fucking funny. So actually, after the trial and everything, Deodato was cleared of the murder charge. However, the screenwriter and the producers were convicted. So Deodato, the screenwriter, and the producers were convicted of obscenity due to the graphic content within the movies. The film was released from seizure in 1982. So, we know all these things. Why even make the movie? This is where I think probably the most important part of understanding some of the, I'll say, aspects of the film.
Production choices.
So the production of the film began in 1979 after the director was contacted by a German film distributor to make a similar film to his previous movie, Last Cannibal World. Created to be a mockumentary film, Cannibal Holocaust centers around recovered film footage from a group of filmmakers that went to the Amazon rainforest to observe local cannibal tribes, as we discussed. The inspiration behind the film came from the Italian media coverage of the Red Brigade's terrorism, which again, I will explain that. Diodato believes that the news reports were staged and that the media portrayed violence with little regard for journalistic integrity. The film was banned in several countries, including the UK, Australia, and South Africa. While some nations have revoked the ban, many still uphold it due to his depiction of violence, sexual assault, and genuine animal abuse. The film is regarded as one of the first found footage movies, which later went on to inspire the Blair Witch Project, which, as we know, inspired the rest of the found footage resurgence that happened starting in the 1990s and early 2000s. To do the Red Brigades, just to clear up confusion, it's an Italian Marxist, Leninist terrorist group that was responsible for numerous violent incidents in the 70s. Again, I wasn't going to go down the rabbit hole. That's just enough for you to understand what they were doing.
And somehow we always come back to the violent Marxist Leninist. I need to stop.
All that being said, these are our thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, what a wonderful segue.
For me to say, it's a movie.
Truly. Like, it's kind of one of those films where there is a point to it, but the criticism of exploitative media, it then becomes a piece of exploitative media.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish you kind of would have focused on your moral quandaries a little bit more rather than exposing the inside jellyfish of a turtle. I feel like that maybe would have been a little bit more effective than all of the rape too.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with you there. It's like, okay, like, I get it. Like, you have certain feelings and thoughts about the media and how the media often, exploits people in sometimes their worst moments. The movie Night Stalker with Jake Gyllenhaal is a really good example of this. It's a fantastic film, so if you're wanting a movie that's kind of along those lines, obviously a completely different movie from the one we have here, like, go watch Night Stalker. It's a much better experience and movie. But yeah, it's like, but you became what you hated, sir. And I don't know what Last Cannibal World is like. I'm not dying to know, so I don't know if it's any different, any better. I would be hard-pressed to believe that this wasn't just a one-off incident movie, and this is probably just how he made movies.
Yeah, and it would make sense that Cannibal Holocaust would be the most notorious film then, especially if, because again, we don't know anything about the other ones. Maybe they have some, very deep commentary on the world at large.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like, I wouldn't say necessarily it's pointless, because I do, in a way, understand where it is in the culture. The most disturbing part of the movie is the animal abuse, because that's the one part of the movie that you can say with certainty that it is not simulated, is not fake, you know what you're watching is real, and it is very hard to watch.
You just feel so gross watching it, too. And I mean, every single regulation, even outside of film, just, like OSHA, workplace safety guidelines, wearing your seatbelt, all of these things, we have regulations because there's a trail of blood, leading up to them.
Yep.
And if a film gotta push the button so much that we need, regulations for animals on set, this was the film to do it,
Sure.
It's just not fun to watch.
No. And they really thought they ate with that last line.
They did. They really did. Yeah, with that last line, I'll probably lean into my thoughts with it. Because, now that you do mention kind of that line between him having beef with journalists, that's really how the anthropologists in this film read as. Because, I mean, anthropology is not an innocent field by any means, For those who don't know, I have an anthropology minor.
And we took an anthropology class.
Yeah. You know, anthropology is not an unproblematic field by any means, but usually in anthropology, the criticisms are like, are you objectively able to research people who have very different beliefs and, you know, mores and values than what you come from whenever you're observing them? Are you going to be able to detach yourself and, you know, accurately depict them? Or are you going to impose, you know, if you are a deeply religious individual, are you going to look down at their practices and go, that's not right? Because who are you? It works for them. They're different people. But this film is just, like, cruelly violent with how they depict the anthropologists of, like, yeah, we're going to set your fucking hut on fire because we need drama for our documentary.
Yeah.
We're going to rape the people who live in your community. Honestly, just because. Like, because the opportunity presented itself. I really don't think they had any other reason for it.
And the reason I think that, kind of touching even more on that, you know, the final line of the movie is, I wonder who the real cannibals are, and why I believe that is the executives. I do wonder if that's supposed to be a take on, like, the anthropologists wouldn't feel the need to create all this dramatization if the executives were not asking for it, if it didn't make good TV. That could be a stretch, but I do wonder if it's supposed to be a take on that, you know, where it's like, they want this drama, and they kind of want this violence. It's kind of like almost like a sex sells kind of thing, but obviously this is like violence sells.
Well, and two, at that point...
And they're preying on these other people to do so.
Well, yeah, and it's also really effective American propaganda, too. You know, because their intention was for people to never see that true footage of them instigating problems and being horrible American tourists at that point, which is an interesting topic in and of itself, because we don't really think about how, maybe we do now, but like how things are filmed and shot. Never document yourself doing something incriminating.
101, baby.
Put the phones in a separate room. Turn them off.
It's a 101, baby.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, even with the animal abuse, this probably still isn't the worst one we've watched for this podcast so far.
Yeah.
I think,
no. I think that Cannibal Holocaust is probably the worst purely because it is real animal abuse.
Yes.
And like that, I feel like that's a special tier. I still think Salo and a Serbian film, more specifically a Serbian film, are probably like the worst. At this point, they're like neck and neck.
Right. I think I would say, like, I would watch this movie again. The animal abuse...
Free version.
Yeah.
Or like cut down.
The no animal abuse cut. Like, if I had like a group of friends over that were like, oh my god, like, show me something fucked up, and I'd be like, alright. Because let's be real, even, like, most of my friends, I'm not showing them Salo, and I'm not showing them a Serbian film. Okay? Like, I'm not. This one I would still be comfortable enough, the cut without animal abuse, to be like, here you go. Here's some fucked up shit. LOL. Get drunk and watch it.
Yeah, because I think outside of that, because people can typically handle, like, beheadings and physical violence, the sexual assault scenes would be pretty difficult. That would become the next tier of how well can you stomach this.
Correct.
The non-animal abuse cut, I feel like for a lot of people, they would have kind of like a similar reaction to Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
Because I still feel so bad that I low-key traumatized you and our other friend watching Pink Flamingos, because I forgot about so many scenes that happened in that movie.
Just because, like, it just takes you off guard, and you're like...
It does.
And you're like, bro, like,
Yeah.
what is this, dude? And I don't know if the Pink Flamingo. Yeah, I mean, Pink Flamingo's episode will come out before this one. Yeah. So just go.
Yeah.
Y'all know. Y'all know.
Yeah.
What we're talking about.
Yeah. Cannibal Holocaust feels like it's on the same level playing ground as other films without the abuse.
Yeah. I could definitely agree with that, because it's just like a what the fuck, man. And I think that's just the point of it. Like, that's my bottom line of this movie, is just a what the fuck, man.
I need to like impose the Dance Moms quote that I'm thinking of, but it's like,
on the bottom, Paige, you were good. I'm waiting for you to be great.
I think the director's intent, like, we could have gotten something a little bit less exploitative and gross. I guess it's generally a positive that at least we know that because of this movie, the amount of animals that have to be sacrificed for art is drastically cut down.
Yay!
So, yay.
Thank you. That's kind of it. It's like, you know, just like just take away the real life animal abuse, take away the sexual abuse stuff, because the regular violence that is done in this movie it's fine.
Getting impaled, super creative. Really fucking metal that the production cast had to show up to court to say, hey, we didn't actually kill people. Like, that's a really cool lore around the film.
Right. You know what? I take that back. And I'm not someone who's like, you know, you need to throw sexual violence into every movie. But maybe to say, like, in this movie specifically, and as to how, like, the American filmmakers treat the natives and how they're just going around, like, you know, raping their women and stuff like that, when that's typically a narrative that is put on to these other cultures, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're gonna rape our women and whatever, and it's like, but that's, you know, that's what the Americans were doing in this movie, and the native tribes didn't do that until they basically reached their bottom line of, hey, we're tired of you fucking with us, so here you go. Is it still hard to watch? Yes. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, when the narrative is speaking for something, maybe there is something to say about that. Food for thought.
Wait, say that one more time, just for...
when the narrative is, like, actually kind of saying something, like, using that as a device to say something, though I know the arguments that you can make that argument, you know, you can show that in many other ways. I get it. I'm just saying, y'all, this is a 1980 movie, okay? Maybe it can be useful to show, you know, like with the Americans being the one that were, like, raping and killing their women, right? Whereas that's typically the narrative that we like to put onto other cultures as Americans.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, whenever you look at the film through that lens, it does become really effective for specifically Americans, because we're fucking stupid. It should be more acceptable to say that Americans are not always the good guys.
Correct.
Like, very often, we objectively are the bad guys, or the morally ambiguous ones that kind of turn their eye when we could actually do something helpful. Just because you are critical of American actions does not inherently mean that you are anti-American.
Yeah.
And it's like this hairline fracture that happens of, if you make a piece of art or even say something that is not pro-America, it is anti-America. And it's like, we can have nuance. We can live in nuance, you know? So I like looking at this film through that lens now.
I think this movie can be a little thought-provoking, especially knowing, like, the director's background and kind of where he's coming from, whether right or wrong with it.
The questionable methods.
Yeah. And I don't want nobody up in here saying that I support sexual assault and shit in movies. Okay, I don't. I'm just saying, sometimes
As
when
plot
done
devices.
as plot devices that actually make sense, okay, there you go. For everyone who enjoyed the movie The Nightingale, what the fuck you think that movie's about? I ain't watched it yet. I gotta get up the nerve to, because I heard it's a good movie.
I also have not seen this movie, so I'm nodding along like I understand.
I just know how it begins, because it's a movie I needed to go into knowing how it started, and I know it's brutal, but if you enjoyed that movie, shut the fuck up. Mic drop. Goodbye.
thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Also, if you like The Hills Have Eyes, shut up.
Or, I mean, I'll throw myself into the mix with,
And Last House on the Left.
yes, that one. No, I'm thinking of I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, you're thinking about
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I've already said that I like that movie. So, anywho, thank you so much for coming along with us for this episode about Cannibal Holocaust.
Ended up getting into a little bit more like big thoughts than I thought we would today, but yeah.
yeah, especially for like at 10 o'clock at night. We're very the Red Bull didn't give us wings, but it reawakened the intellectual.
Thank you guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and the next episode will be the official season finale, so please make sure that you join us for that one. See you next time.
Bye.
You'll find superstition a contagious thing. Some people let it get the better of them. I don't think you will.
No.